Hello and welcome to the Doofcast, the official variety
I supposed to say one?
Jesus Christ.
Because I wasn't paying attention for a second. You know what? Let's just, I know it's the Doofcast. You know it's the Doofcast. I mean, everyone clicked on it. We all know it's the Doofcast. Let's just cut to the brass taxes here.
All right. Well, I'm Scott Daly.
We're all here to talk about the movie in Bruges.
Yeah, but we got to set it up first, Michael. Because this isn't just a normal episode.
Came out in 2008.
It's true, it did.
Someone directed it. Scott, you probably know that.
Yeah, if you would just let me do my thing.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This is another one of our Council of Doof episodes in which Matt has to explain what that is because it's important, Michael. It's important.
Look, we all know what the Council of Doof is, okay?
Do we?
I know what the Council of Doof is. You know what the Council of Doof is. We all know
Scott,
what the Council of Doof is.
Yeah, Scott, look, everyone knows that once a month, those individuals that donate to us on Patreon at the Council of Doof level will get to collectively decide on a movie for the community to consider for interest into the canon.
Yeah, we all know that.
And we all further know that Scott and I, maybe some guests, will meet, talk about the movie, and then present our case for why it should or should not be admitted. Everybody already knows this. We don't need to go through it again.
I mean, it sounds like you're reading off of a script right now.
Yeah.
What?
But of course, as always, we always leave the final decision up to our listeners. So we're going to talk about this month's movie.
Yeah.
And then we're going to turn it over to you guys to vote on whether it should be entered into the canon of great films.
And remember, the more money you donate, the more we listen.
I don't think that's actually true, although perhaps a good business strategy.
Probably would be.
Hey, Matt, what movie are we talking about today?
We're talking about In Bruges.
All right. What are you doing?
After I killed them, I walked home to await instructions. Get to Bruges.
Bruges? Where's that?
It's in Belgium.
For 2 weeks? In Bruges? In a room like this? With you? No way.
Been to the top of the tower? Guidebook says it's a must-see.
Well, you ain't going up there.
Why?
It's all windy stairs. I'm not being funny.
What exactly are you trying to say?
They're a bunch of elephants.
Mr. Blakely?
Yes.
You have a message.
Number one, why aren't you in when I told you to be in? You better be in when I call again, or there'll be now to pay up. I'm telling you.
He swears a lot, doesn't he?
Guilt-stricken after a job gone wrong, Hitman Ray and his partner await orders from their ruthless boss in Bruges, Belgium, the last place in the world Ray wants to be.
It's like Michael comes on the podcast and everyone forgets how to do podcasts.
I don't think he's a ruthless boss. Let's just jump into the brass taxes here.
Well, hold on. This movie was written and directed by Martin McDonagh. That's where you were asking before, Michael.
Oh yeah, you just now got around to it.
Yeah, because that's where it is in the script, sir.
Okay, keep going.
I'm done now.
Can I talk now?
Michael, what do you think about In Bruges?
I'm going to go get a beer.
Yeah, Bruges. It's a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale city. It's a lovely canal. And I had a great time.
Okay, well, what about the movie?
Wait, what?
The movie.
No, well, you told me to use the credit card to go check out Bruges.
I did not do that.
You told me to use so I went to Bruges.
So you're just reviewing Bruges for us.
Yeah.
Little known fact, Michael actually has been to In Bruges.
I have been in Bruges.
Now, when you go there, do you say I'm in Bruges, or do you just say I'm in Bruges?
The locals, that's usually how the locals refer to themselves, is that they're in Bruges.
Can we, for the love of God, please talk about this movie?
Did you look at all the canals in that?
I looked at the lovely canals. It's like a fairy tale canals.
Yeah.
And there's a Basilica of the Holy Blood, which is pretty metal and featured in the movie.
That is
and
pretty
I
cool.
had a similar reaction to Ray.
Of course you don't have to.
So I think it. So look, I think
let's bring some structure, just a little bit.
I think I just want to mention, maybe contextualize the reason why we're being a bit silly, is that we already talked about this movie 4 years ago, and we did a really good job then.
Did we? Did we?
We did actually.
So go watch that. What else do you guys want to talk about?
But the patrons want us to give a chance to this be on the council, the council thing.
Well, there's a very real possibility that the people listening today did not listen to that episode because it was one of our very, very first episodes from a long, long time ago. So I think it's a good opportunity to revisit and re-talk about this movie. And Michael is here because this is like your favorite movie, right, Michael? This is it.
Oh, it's in the 6.
It's in the 6.
It's in the 6 good movies, yeah.
We've knocked out, I think, 3 of them now.
Yeah, what ones have we... Yeah, we did the Prestige recently.
We did the Prestige, yeah.
We're doing this one. What else have we done?
I mean, I feel like Hateful Eight's on the list, but we haven't done an episode on it.
Not on the list.
Oh, shit. Anyway, let's talk about In Bruges.
You know, I don't think that their boss was heartless. Let's start there.
Okay, let's start there. Yeah.
He was a man of integrity.
So you're talking about Harry, played by Ralph Fiennes?
I'm talking about Harry, played by Ralph Fiennes. Actually, is how they would pronounce it in Bruges. But you know, he could have just shot Ken up in the clock tower, but he just couldn't bring himself to do it because he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a man of honor. He's a man of integrity. He has his principles.
He's got principles. If he had shot a child, he would have blown his fucking head off.
And he did.
And he did. And so he did.
And he did.
Yeah.
That's what I like about this movie is that all of the characters have heart.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, you're absolutely right that you have Harry and you have Ray, who are kind of like these two characters surrounding, Ken is the Brendan Gleeson character. You have both these characters surrounding Colin Farrell's Ray, and they're both, like you could argue that one's like a guardian angel and the other's like the Grim Reaper, and yet they're both people of principles that stick to the things that they believe in. And I mean, everyone's kind of a bad guy in this movie, but also no one's a bad guy. I mean, it's fascinating that you can make a movie in which you get to sympathize with someone that shot a child in the head, but that's what this movie does.
Well, that's why it's so effective, is because they're hitmen, which is supposed to be like heartless people.
Mm-hmm.
But they use that to like contrast the fact that they're not. They're very human people.
Yeah, right. Brendan Gleeson loves the beautiful buildings. Colin Farrell feels terrible guilt.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's great that he feels terrible guilt for killing the child, and he feels absolutely nothing for killing the priest. Like he clearly has his moral code where certain things matter and certain things don't.
Yeah.
To continue on a thread that I started 4 years ago, it's I kind of like how each of the characters can be said to exhibit a sort of approach toward justice, especially as it is kind of reflected through Christianity. So like Ray Fiennes is a sort of Old Testament vengeful sort of absolutist figure where he's like, these are the rules. If you break the rules, these are the penalties. And then Brendan Gleeson, who is, you know, I think directly sort of connected with a more New Testament angle on things, in no small part because he's the one who really wants to go see Jesus Christ's blood, is willing to forgive. He's willing to give another chance.
Yeah.
He thinks that Colin Farrell has the capacity to change, whereas as far as Ray Fiennes is concerned, it's like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he has the capacity to change. He broke the rules.
Yeah, I like that. It's not that Harry believes that Ray is incapable of change. It's that it's immaterial to his system and his principles. You shot a kid, you have to die.
Right.
The end.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like the idea of him being a Grim Reaper too, though. Like, there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. At least, like the way that he's like all in black and sort of stalking him through the streets. I got that vibe, especially on this viewing.
Sure, definitely. And I love, like, I think we talked about this last time, but the Bruges as purgatory metaphor I think is so wonderfully effective here. It's like not even it's not subtle because like there's an entire conversation about purgatory where they're standing in front of a painting that is depicting purgatory.
Yeah.
And I love the ways which we paint Bruges as both. I think I read somewhere that Martin McDonagh stayed in Bruges and found it beautiful. He fell in love with the city and it looked beautiful and the buildings and exactly like the Ken character, but also he was bored as shit, exactly like the Ray character. And I think part of the reason why he made this is he was kind of capturing both those sentiments in two different characters, and then exploring this idea of purgatory, this idea of it's a little shitty, but it's a little nice, and it's somewhere in the middle. And of course, I love the idea that Ray cannot leave purgatory until he has like recognized something in himself. Like he tries to get away and is immediately stopped and like brought back to Bruges. I love the moment on the train. I had completely forgotten about it. Like when I was watching, I was like, oh, he's leaving. And I was like, does he choose to come back? And it's like, no. Bruges will not let him go. Purgatory will not let him go yet. He hasn't come to the realization he needs.
Yeah, I actually slightly interpreted the ending of the movie differently this time, or maybe just interpreted the meaning of the line that he says at the end differently. Not that anything different happens, but he says, you know, what if death, like he basically says, what if purgatory, like what if the afterlife, what if hell is Bruges? And then he says, and then I really, really hoped I wouldn't die. and I, like, for some reason I had never really made the connection there that he's basically saying, I don't want to die and be stuck in Bruges forever. Which is basically a joke. Like it's basically a funny, like I always sort of saw it as tragic before now, but like this time I thought it was funny actually.
Yeah. But I mean, he was using death as kind of a way to escape the guilt he was feeling, right? And so it's also a realization that like recognizing that death is not the escape he thought it was, that like that life, existence brings hope for change and for redemption in some way.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's not just a pure joke. He's realizing that he does want to live, actually, if only so that he doesn't have to be stuck in Bruges forever.
So, Michael, why do you love this movie so much?
I every time I think about this movie, when I haven't seen it for a while, I'm like, oh, am I remembering this movie too fondly? Because I just remember kind of like some kind of silly jokes, like the the fat guy getting chased around, having a heart attack on the steps. And I'm like, this is just kind of a silly movie that wasn't actually that funny. And then you go back and watch it, and it's just like an incredibly dense movie that like perfectly transitions from tone to tone and interweaves like brilliant acting of like regret and depression with like really funny jokes, and then action, and then kind of an almost like zaniness with like how they're talking about violence, but that is still completely serious and tense the whole time. So it's just kind of like a masterwork painting of tone.
Yeah, the parts that I usually laugh at are not the jokes. They're usually like just kind of the blatant absurdity of a situation. In fact, a lot of the jokes, this is another thing that maybe this is me getting older, or I think more likely, like, okay. So this is the thing that I was noticing on this viewing in particular, is how absolutely loaded the script is with like group centered language. Like we're constantly talking about little people, gays, black people, Vietnamese, Canadians, Americans, Irish, English, Belgians, overweight people. Like there's constantly like distinctions being made, and then we're like making fun of, or at least pointing out that like those people over there are different. You know, that the multiple characters so there's this fun sort of mirroring between Ralph Fiennes and Colin Farrell's characters, where they both behave similarly and say similar things. So like Colin Farrell says, you know, no, I don't want a gay beer. I want a normal beer for a normal person. And then Ralph Fiennes says, no, he says, I don't want an Uzi. I'm not going to shoot up 10 black 10-year-olds. I want a normal gun for a normal person.
Sure.
So like they're in their own minds, they're normal people. And then they like make some basically like slur or slur adjacent, extremely like insensitive statement about some other group and say, I'm not like those people. And the script is just absolutely filled with this. And it's like, I'm not entirely sure what the thematic point of this is, because it's constant. It's constant, right? I don't really see how it connects to the themes of like guilt and purgatory and so forth. But it's definitely in there, and it's not actually very funny. Like there's a few beats in there that are funny, but usually it's kind of uncomfortable.
Oh,
like
yeah.
when the little person starts talking about race war, like the only reason that's funny is because it's awkward. It's like uncomfortable. So well, I don't know what to make of all that.
It's not even supposed to be funny because it bothers Ken on a serious level.
Right, exactly.
I love that reveal where we learn so much more about Ken, that he used to have his wife was black and was killed. And I mean, to try to stretch what you're saying here, Matt, I do think it's very much an us versus them type of ideology, a black versus white type of ideology, both in the race war the little person is talking about, but also in good versus evil, right? What is good? What is evil? And it kind of you have Ken in the middle of this thing, this white man who was married to a black woman, kind of representing not one or the other, but some kind of middle ground and some kind of feeling for getting away from that kind of dichotomy of thinking. That is kind of his mission in this movie, is to like teach both Harry and Ray that they don't need to fall into these lines of thinking of strict code-based systems, that there is something beyond that. I don't know. Maybe that's kind of the type of mood it's trying to create. I don't know.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, definitely Brendan Gleeson is the least likely character to make an insensitive, sort of racialized, or it's not even always race, it's just bigoted, sort of bigoted comment. And I think it's like, he's sort of lived this more tragic life, and seen more of the consequences of that way of thinking, and so he's more willing to be forgiving. And I mean he is a Christ figure. He sacrifices his life for Ray. So like the movie is not like, I think that's one sort of like bad faith criticism you could make of the movie, is like, oh man, what's with all this bigoted language? It's like, well, the characters who are doing that are the bad guys, or the ones who are being portrayed as wrong. It wasn't like, go ahead, Michael, because I'm not really too sure.
I was just gonna say, like, the movie just has fun, I think, with contrasts and like cognitive dissonances, and like doing things that are the opposite of what you expect people to do. And like one kind of another funny example that came to mind of that was when they're going out of the bar after he hits the woman with the bottle, and he's like trying to explain to the girl he was taking out to dinner. He's like, under normal circumstances, like I never would hit a woman, but she had a bottle. So, and then he's like, and I would hit a woman if she has a bottle, or she knows karate or something like that, but not under normal circumstances. I would never. And it's just like, it's just stuff like that that's kind of common throughout the film. That is where some of the humor comes from.
Yeah, the absurdism of it. I mean, there's this. I mean, the beautiful. I think you're right, Michael. That what this movie does more than anything is handle the tone and the tonal shift, because you have the scene in which Harry calls Ken on the phone and tells him that he has to go kill Ray, and the scene starts with a joke, because Harry's like, tell Ray to get out of here, and of course Ray isn't there. And so it has this elaborate scene where like Ken is having to go through the motions of like pretending to tell Ray to leave, and then like waiting a certain amount of time, and then like check to make sure he's gone. And it's a comedy beat.
Yeah.
And then he's talking about how much like he loved the ducks so much, or the swans, and it made him think that the whole place is a fairy tale, and he's lying. And then the whole tone of that scene shifts on a dime the second Harry tells Ken what he wants him to do. And he even repeats the line again. He repeats like, tell me again what he said about the swans. And it's said with such heartbreak. And this is like a thing that was played for like a funny goof at the beginning, is now said by the same character. It's the same line, like filled with like heartbreak and ruin, and that it can transition between these two things just so easily. I mean, the same thing again when he goes and buys the gun, where it's like this thing where he's feeling terrible. He's buying the gun. He doesn't want to do this. He doesn't want to do this. And then we have this really hilarious beat
Like
of joke with the
alcoves.
alcoves. Yeah. And it's just like how, like, it's remarkable how the funny parts are funny. The devastating parts are devastating. And it can just, like, I have not seen a movie that can handle that disparate tone and like, switch back and forth this quickly.
It's the perfect absurdity of existence, because the characters are saying absurd things, but in a way where it's like, actually, that's like a completely normal human thing to say, and this is just how humans are. Mm-hmm. And I think another great example of the tone shifts is at the end when Ken meets Harry, and they go up to the clock tower, and it's really tense, and they have the tense music, and they're like, oh, what's going to happen? And then Ken is like, you're like a father to me, Harry, I'm not gonna like pull on you. And you're like, oh, this is going to be really sad. And then Harry shoots him in the leg, and it's really funny. And he's like, what'd you do that for? And you're like, can't kill you after all you said all that. And then it's kind of touching, and you think it's going to be okay because Harry's like helping Ken down the stairs. Mm-hmm. In a nice way. And then the blind kid comes up, and it's funny again because Harry makes another, insensitive joke at the guy with the eye patch. And then they find out that Ray's there. And then it's really tense again because they struggle. Yeah. And then Ken gets shot. And then it's really sad as he throws himself off the building. And then there's that scene where Ray is there with him, and it's really sad. And then Harry shows up, and it goes to the tense music again. Mm-hmm. And then they go back to the hotel, and there's the kind of funny scene where they're talking to each other with the hotel owner in between, who they don't want to get hurt, and they're making like the rules for their duel to the death.
Yeah.
And it's just like that, and it just keeps going. Like I could go on toward like the end scene when there's like the little joke thrown in where like the dum-dum bullets were mentioned that blow people's heads off, and then the midget gets his head blown off, and he thinks it's a kid, and then so it's just like a constant going between all the things, and it like somehow works.
I wonder if it's like what Mark McDonagh wanted to do is create a purgatory in location, a purgatory in theme, and like a purgatory in tone as well, where it's like just hopping back and forth between, serious, disturbing, funny, and it's just like it kind of lies in the middle of all these things.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, like you don't really feel closure at the end of the movie. That's one thing that maybe an earlier version of me would have viewed as like a slight criticism, where it's like it just kind of ends and you don't know if he lives or dies, and I feel dissatisfied. I want a more firm closure. I want to know, and it's like, well, no, it's purgatory. You don't get to know. You don't get to know. You're basically stuck in the movie forever now.
Yeah, I don't know. I like to think that just wanting to live is enough for this character. Mm-hmm. I feel like, okay, he's gotten to a place where at least he wants to live.
Yeah. And just like about that, like the scene is so perfect where Ken is going to kill him, and then notices he's about to kill himself, and then stops him.
Yeah.
And like from a distant perspective, that's crazy. Just like what Harry says, where he's like, wait, he was going to kill himself? It just gets fucking worse.
Yeah.
And but
you didn't even have to do anything. Just let him go.
Like as the audience, you like have the same reaction as Ken, where you're like, oh no.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. I want to talk a bit about the violence related to the tone, because like all the violence in this movie is like so over the top that it's hilarious. Like even when it like shouldn't be. So like for example, like the worst violence in the movie, I would say, is when they shoot the little kid in the head.
Yeah.
And then when Brendan Gleeson jumps off the building and splatters. And in both cases, it's like in any other movie, for example, if there's a scene where a little kid gets shot in the head, you're not going to like show it. And then you're certainly not going to show the little piece of paper that says that the reason he's in the church is that he's too sad, which it's just like, it's so sad funny. That it's funny, right? Like, yeah, you're like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen, and then like, and then it's funny, and then similarly, Brendan Gleeson, it's like this sort of heroic, beautiful moment. And then he hits the pavement in like a Kill Bill splatter of blood, and his limbs like fly off. And it's not like I was laughing. Like, I'm not an actual psychopath. Like, I wasn't actually laughing at the scene, but it's like, it's always like 6 notches higher than you think it's going to be. And that just makes it a little bit more absurd, I think. That's just something I noticed this time.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. Definitely. I had forgotten about the reasons he's getting forgiveness is I think he's bad at maths, and he's
sad and he's moody.
Yeah,
which is another word for sad. It's like but it's like he's clearly sitting there writing this down and thinking like, how do I make this like so like over the top worst thing you've ever seen, like without restraint, right? Like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Can we talk about the actors a little bit here? I think this is like one of, if not the best Colin Farrell performance ever. I think he's incredible in this movie, and I think he's doing so many different things. Like the opening of the movie is so great because we meet these two characters, and we have Ken, who's like the calm, like really into the history person, and then we have Colin Farrell, who's basically behaving like a child, and he's grumpy and he's complaining and and of course we don't understand at this point that this is really just a restlessness born about by extreme guilt, and so like he's doing a thing that he's creating a version of the character that is just annoying and stupid, but actually there's a lot more going on beneath it, and so he can play this absurdity and then play the scene where he like breaks down into tears. I put the quote in my notes here.
It's on the children's play set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just like, he's dead because of me, and I'm been trying to get my head around it, but I can't. I will always have killed that little boy. That ain't ever going away, ever, unless maybe I go away. And he weeps, and it's just like, it's a incredible performance by Colin Farrell. Like he's doing like, I think didn't his like frowny face become a meme because like it's the best frowny face in the world? I don't remember, so. But
I don't know, but his like upward tilted eyebrows I associated with Colin Farrell because of this movie, because he always has that perfect like face on.
He must have eyebrow implants. They're just amazing.
But
they are really amazing.
But you're right, Scott. Like, and I was watching it this time, I was like, I think this movie could have been bad if Colin Farrell were someone who was also a really great actor of a similar style wasn't playing it. Like, if you didn't play this perfectly, like it just wouldn't have landed, this mixture of like seriousness and absurdity.
Yeah, because he needs to have that manic energy while also having the pathos and like the deep, like almost Oscar type performance in the drama of it. And he needs to have both at the same time.
I mean, I think he should have like the people have won acting awards for less. It's just because this isn't really the type of movie that you win an acting award for. But like, I think the acting was like top notch.
It did win it did get nominated for screenplay.
But I mean, everybody in this movie, I think it's the sign of a good script, and then it's being carried by really excellent actors because everybody sort of has multiple things going on. So yes, Colin Farrell's acting like a petulant child, but like you can see sort of reading between the lines that the reason he's behaving this way is he's miserable, and like he's seeking distraction. You know, he wants to go on a date with a beautiful girl. Mm-hmm. In part, that's just because that's kind of the person he is. He'd probably do that anyway. But also, at least in part, he's trying to just put all of this horribleness out of his mind and kind of throw himself into like stimulation, basically.
Yeah.
Which I think is why he finds Bruges so horrible. Like, maybe this is a leap, but it's not that he finds Bruges horrible. It's that Bruges is just boring, and thus he has nothing to think about other than the horrible guilt he's trying to escape.
Yeah.
And so being unstimulated to him in this period of his life where he's horribly guilty is torturous. Like that, it's sort of it. Yeah. And in fact, you could even say like the whole notion of purgatory in the religious sense is like there's nothing particularly horrible about purgatory. It's just, it's a place where you torture yourself with your own sins.
Sure.
until you've purified yourself. And Brendan Gleeson's having a great time because he's already sort of processed all of his own issues.
Mm-hmm.
And Colin Farrell has certainly not.
Yeah. I also kind of love the reveal. I didn't realize until this viewing how late in the movie it's revealed that this was Colin Farrell's first job, that he's like not like, you kind of assume these are two professional assassins that are just like both been killing people, but this was Farrell's first gig. And so he's not even really an assassin yet. Like he killed two people. And
well, I like how the movie makes both of them seem like they're just like office workers.
Yeah.
Like they're not like cool assassins. They're just like blue collar workers, maybe, or who are just like, you know, one of them's been around a while. Yeah. The other one's new. Like they're both, neither of them are cool.
Mm-hmm.
They like normal things, like looking at the history or bored by it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so much of the movie really is that part where it's just like two men on vacation and there's like no plot happening, but
yeah,
you're still enjoying like the almost Larry David-esque comedy of it.
I also think that besides all this deep stuff that you keep going on about what the movie means, that the movie has a very like surface level thing you can relate to, which is just like what it's like to be on vacation.
Sure.
With people who are into things that you're not.
Yeah. Imagine being on vacation with a coworker. That would be miserable. Like, if any of my coworkers are listening right now, no offense intended to you, but like, I don't want to hang out after work with my coworkers, especially if we're into totally different things. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in situations where I was sort of on vacation with people that I didn't know very well, and like, I find that there's like a huge mismatch between people's like, I don't know how to say it other than energy level. Like very often I'll be with people who are like, all right, so we're going to see these 12 things. And then like they just go, and I'm like, I like to see like one or two things and like slowly kind of make my way through it and absorb it, you know? And it's, I don't know. I agree though. It can be torture. It can be hell. It can be purgatory.
It's very important to go on vacation with people that agree with what a vacation is with you. Because there are some people out there that like when they go to a city, they want to see every single thing in the city and they want to make a plan and they want to be go. We have to go. We spend an hour here, another, like I am not that type of vacationer, and I do not get along with that type of vacationer because I just want to like chill in the city, walk around, see things, like kind of live in it a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're right. It is total torture.
And another metaphor here that you've missed is, you know, is Ray's one chance at salvation to get out of this hell is what?
I don't know.
It's the train. It's the train. He was on the train. The train was going to lead him out of Bruges.
Okay. Yeah.
But he got pulled off the train.
Because he hit that woman with a bottle.
That's that woman. You got to think about that. There's rules on a train.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting how like he deserves everything that happens to him, right? Like,
oh sure,
like it's not like him losing his patience at the people in the restaurant is so number one, totally the sort of thing that Ray Fiennes would have done, because he has this sense of like personal honor, where like if you like he knows he shouldn't say anything, but then he does, and then he escalates it into punching.
Colin Farrell is so good in that scene, right, where he like, you hear the guy complain, and like you can see Farrell trying to talk himself out of saying anything. Like he's trying as hard as he can to not say anything, and then he just can't help himself.
Yeah.
It's so good.
There's a thing in that scene where he mutters under his breath, like he pauses, wondering if he should just punch the cunt. And I was like, I wonder if that was in the script as a line, or if that was like in the script as narration, and then he just read it and it was hilarious and they kept it. There's a bunch of interesting stuff that I noticed. I think I have a better sound system now. Because like, for example, I don't know if this is like acting choices or like directing, direction, but like I don't know. There's like one really minor point way earlier in the movie where they're talking about like, you can go to hideout anywhere. You can go to hideout in Croydon, and then like very quietly, Colin Farrell mutters, or Coventry, which I'd never heard him say before. I literally never heard him say that before. But it's like I had it turned up loud enough this time. But it's like it's like an unnecessary line that he says it like at the volume that a human would actually say it, and he's not like projecting it at all. So I was like, I don't know, I just thought it was interesting how the acting is like so like humanist and like realistic that sometimes the actors say things way too quietly, but they like leave it that way because that's realistic.
Interesting. Is there something specific about Coventry that would have made him say the line that way? I don't think so, right?
I don't know. I think he's just distracted, and he's like it's like if your mind is totally elsewhere and you're not really talking, sure. You're just like your mouth is just saying a thing.
Sure. One more thing I want to do is circle around to Ray finds Harry again, because something I noticed this time around was when he yells at his wife and calls her an inanimate object. He then apologizes for it before he leaves. This is just a wonderful character, right? Like, he's a murderer who is going to kill anyone that gets in his way and doesn't care. He's a terrible human being. And then he's mean to his wife while he's on the phone and then apologizes to her. He's like, before he leaves, he goes, "I'm sorry, I called you an inanimate object. I was angry. I didn't mean it."
But it's also like the most harmless child insult that you would like say to a friend of like, "You're a whatever."
I mean, I do that all the time. It's because it's a terrible, stupid insult. Yeah.
Well, and then later him and Brendan Gleeson are like, Brendan Gleeson's insulting him when they're sitting at that outdoor bar together and at their cafe, I guess. And he's getting so mad about it. Like, he's getting like incensed, right? It's like the angriest you've ever seen Ray Fiennes in a movie.
Don't talk about my kids. Take that back what you said about my kids.
I mean, Ray Fiennes does a great job of acting in this movie too, because of that. And then like when the person responds, he'll do this thing like where he's still kind of seething on the inside, but you can see his brain's also trying to work out like if the person is sincere in their apology or whatever. And then he'll be like, you can see him kind of like letting it go and be like, fine, let's move on. Or whatever. And at the scene at the top of the clock tower and stuff where he's like processing like what exactly he's going to do to Ken, because he's like, well, I can't shoot him. And then
can't let him go either.
Yeah. So he decides to just shoot him in the leg, which kind of totally makes sense for his character and is a nice joke.
But like you said, then is helping him down the watchtower before, again, the tone flips. Yeah. It's good.
And he and Ray have a good relationship too, even though you don't see them really interact until they have like a gunfight to the death. Because like after Ray is shot and then he sees what Harry sees, he's like, "No, Harry, don't. It's not really a kid." Like he doesn't want him to kill himself.
Right.
Yeah.
I always thought that was a great moment in this movie.
Yeah. There's a lot of that's why I say that like it has a lot of heart. Like everyone is like a good person that you like, despite like stepping back objectively, they're all horrible hitmen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the contradiction that Ken brings to voice, is that like now he's talking about how he thinks he's a good person, and then it says, "Now I also must reckon with the idea that I have killed people. Most of them were bad, but like I mean, it's this. I think to go to our purgatory, these are people that are not bad or good. They are both." They have both in them. They're people, and it's really fascinating for sure. I mean, I think like Martin McDonagh, before he got into filmmaking, was a playwright, and you can tell like crazy because the dialogue is so snappy, it's so quick, it's so clever. He just writes the shit out of this movie.
Yeah. Is it so? He directed it too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think he directs the shit out of the movie too. It's really quite impressive.
There was something I noticed. I don't even know if this is particularly clever of me to say, but like the scene where Brendan Gleeson and Ralph Fiennes are talking on that table, when they first see each other in Bruges, the way that McDonagh framed that scene is really interesting to me, because you're in close up, like back and forth close-ups between the two characters the entire time. Once they sit down and have a conversation, you're in these really tight close-ups on them, and like stuff is happening around them, like waiters are coming to ask for their order, but the camera never cuts away from their face, so you like will see Ralph Fiennes like look up and like nod that he wants a drink, and then you'll see like you can't see the waiter, but you see like a beer pass in front of the screen, like they're ordering. So it's like this stuff is happening around them, but the scene is so intense and locked in on these two faces that it just doesn't show anything else. It's a really interesting choice that I thought really ramped up the tension of that scene. How is this going to go? We don't know.
Yeah,
I thought it was really cool.
There's some like really extreme close-ups in there where like punctuating certain beats where I swear like they basically pulled the focus so that one of the characters is only in focus after they like lean forward into the shot. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
like they start out of focus, they lean forward into focus. It's like this very, very, I guess, what is it, shallow focus? Is that the
yes?
Yeah,
yes.
and then very tight. Yeah, like it creates this extremely intense, intimate back and forth, because really that argument is sort of like the the thesis of the movie is being debated by these two characters.
Yeah.
It's really one of the things that makes a good movie is if there's a small number of characters and a small number of settings.
Yeah.
And this movie has like 6 characters that are reused efficiently, because there's like the main characters, obviously, of Ray and Ken, and probably Harry you can include there. But then like the other characters, like the hotel owner lady,
the skinhead,
the skinhead who gets his eye put out,
and then he shows up repeatedly.
They all kind of, and even the Canadian guy who is at the restaurant and then is responsible for getting him off the train.
Yeah,
like they all kind of weave in and out in important ways, and there's not that many of them, and they never use like extra character when they could be using one of the characters they've established.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It is definitely economy of storytelling there, which I think makes it feel very play-like, right? Because in plays you normally have pretty limited casts,
right?
And so they're going to use every character they have for sure. I really liked the owner of the hotel. I mean, I loved her comment on the message from Harry. I think that's such a character defining thing that like she's going to speak up on this note and say, by the way, the receptionist is the owner of the hotel, and is not going to allow these people to demean her in that way. And it matches up because we see her in the conflict in the hotel at the very end. She's not going to be like pushed out of this thing. She's going to put herself in the middle of the conflict and make sure they both understand how absurd they're being. And it's just, she's not a really key character in the story, but I love that McDonagh gives her characterization as well.
Yeah, she's very interesting because at the end of the movie, there's, the Bosch painting occurs in the movie, as you see like the masked figures staring at him. And then everything about the scene makes sense except she's there and she has this like beatific angelic smile as she like passes by his stretcher. And it's like
she's clearly the Virgin Mary.
She's she's probably the Virgin Mary. I think. I mean,
it is Christmas and she's pregnant, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
and there's no man present either. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So like that's one moment where the movie is kind of making it clear the themes.
Now there's a few factual inaccuracies in this movie.
Okay. This is our Bruges expert over here.
I have been to Bruges. Okay, just for the record here. And in fact, I've watched In Bruges.
Oh,
wow. Which was really the whole reason I went to In Bruges.
You went all the way to Bruges to watch In Bruges.
Yeah, and to reenact the chase scene. Now, here's the first historical inaccuracy. All of the scenes in the chase scene are, in fact, in Bruges. So, short round of applause for getting that right. Okay, but the geographical continuity of the chase scene does not make sense. It's out of order. It's been edited in post-production, which really took me out of the movie.
The movie.
It's been edited.
Bastards.
Yeah.
Also, that hotel, that lady is not the actual proprietress of that hotel.
Well, perhaps after this experience and she birthed our Lord and Savior, she took off.
It's possible.
Well,
it's possible.
This is really disappointing, and I think I'm changing my whole tune on this movie.
Yeah.
No, I did. I keep thinking about it's a very short scene. I don't even know why it stuck with me so much on this viewing, but during the chase scene, Ray Fiennes loses Colin Farrell because he's slow and old, I guess. and then he stops on this bridge and pulls the map out of his pocket and looks at the map to find where the hotel is, and then conspicuously takes the time to reload his magazine of his pistol, which all of which are details. I guess the reason I love it is that, like, you don't really need any of that, but it helps glue the chase together and the logical flow of things. And it's just the sort of detail oriented script writing that I appreciate about the movie as a whole, where you're never wondering, like, well, hold on, how did that guy? It's like no, we had that very short, like, literally 10-second piece of connective tissue that
it goes back to the whole metaphor that this is about being on vacation.
So you got to look at the map, yeah.
You got to look at the map. That's like the whole bit of being on a vacation where you don't know where you are. And in the hotel, you know, he's like, I'm going to go out the window and jump into the canal. And then Ray Fiennes is like, great, is that to the left or the right of the door when I go out? And then he's like, it's a giant fucking canal. It's right there. It's to the left, isn't it? And he's like, hold on, I just got here. Okay, you've been here a while. And it's just a good vacation exchange.
It's true.
I think I love this angle you're taking on it, Michael, because I've never, like, obviously I love to dive into the metaphor and the deep stuff that's going on with this movie, but it is just a hilarious vacation movie as well.
Yeah, there's like tons of things in here that are just like gripes about being on vacation, like the fat Americans and you know, and all everything.
Everybody's always mad at Americans also. Just
yeah.
I'll don't hold it against me. Well, I'll be the judge of that, won't I?
I love that what he thinks is Americans, the woman he hits with the bottle. I love that they're Canadian, not American. And like, it almost goes entirely unremarked on. He just kind of says, the Canadians.
They didn't kill John Lennon.
It's so great. Anything else y'all want to say about this movie before we move on to the vote?
Did Kenneth McDougal make any other movies?
Martin McDonagh?
Yeah.
Yes, he made 7 Psychopaths, which is a movie I liked okay, but not nearly as much as this one. And he made 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which I thought it was a pretty good movie. A very polarizing movie. It won 2 Academy Awards, but I enjoyed it.
But none of them have quite lived up to in Bruges.
No.
In terms of the, I think 7 Psychopaths was supposed to have a similar tone, right? It was kind of a dark comedy.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
I don't know why I still haven't seen 3 Billboards. I think I'm saving it.
Yeah.
I think you should watch it, yeah. It's interesting. His brother is John Michael McDonagh, who also is a screenwriter, and he's worked with Brendan Gleeson a lot too. I don't know if either of you have ever seen Calvary with Brendan Gleeson in it. It's a very good movie. Very not nearly as fun. Very, very dour. I mean, there's some comedy in it, but much darker than Martin McDonagh's stuff.
No, I have not.
Okay, well, let's take it to a little vote here.
I think this is going to be one of the easiest ones we've ever done. I think we've made our opinions on this movie very clear. I just want to say, for the record, Michael, that I knew you loved this movie,
right? And
I went into my most recent viewing of this movie trying really hard to find things to nitpick about it, so we could fight.
I know,
but
you couldn't find anything, could you?
I couldn't find anything.
You know why?
Why?
Because this is one of the 6 good movies.
It is a very good movie. You and I are in complete agreement about this movie. It's an easy yes for me. No questions. This is one of the greatest movies ever. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think as I said 4 years ago when we inducted it into the Kryptonian collection,
which was a different canon, doesn't count.
Which was a previous canon.
Yeah, I thought we'd already done this.
It's different, Michael. It's different
this time. Look, Michael, we're going to do it again in 4 more years. You're going to get to talk about In Bruges every 4 years over and over until you die because it's purgatory.
Yeah.
Now, the Council of Doof, that's a play on of some other thing, I take it?
Probably.
I don't know. I just kind of needed a thing.
I
just put doof in phrases.
We just do things.
Yeah, we just kind of do things.
Yeah. Well,
Michael, the Kryptonian collection, this was a clear reference to Superman.
Yeah, I mean, that's when we were still the Daily Planet podcast, so it made sense.
Oh, that does make sense now that I think about it.
Yeah.
See, I thought the Daily Planet was the Spider-Man one.
No, that's the Daily Bugle.
Huh. Yep. Well, you learn something new every day.
Well, Michael, your vote doesn't really matter because this isn't like it was in the other show. So, I mean, you can tell us what you think, though.
No, I don't think I will.
Okay. All right.
All right. Before we move on, I want to revisit the 6 good movies. Right. So we've got In Bruges, and we've got what was it?
Prestige.
The Prestige. So we've knocked out 2 of the 4. Right.
We got 2 of the good movies. Yeah.
So I'm really scratching my head here about what the other 4 are.
The problem is there's a lot of movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how many good ones are there?
Well, a lot, actually.
Let me go ahead and answer that for you. There's 6. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to look in your heart for 4 other good movies.
Yes, but Michael, as you know, I love like trash action movies and stuff like that. So like,
but do you? You don't love them though.
Well,
that's the thing. Now your subjective brain loves them. Okay, but your objective brain knows they're dumb movies.
I'm really fascinated for further philosophical explication of.
Now, the 6 good movies, those are the objectively good movies.
Yeah. According to which objectives?
Now, you still haven't understood what objective means. It means they're the 6 good ones, Scott. How much clearer do I have to be?
What's with the accents happening right
now?
He's just excited. Did we determine if 12 Monkeys is on this list?
I don't think we've specifically asked, but also Michael denies anything until an actual episode.
It's been brought to my attention. Matt, what do you think? 12 Monkeys.
It's 100% one of the 6 good movies.
Is it an objectively good movie?
It's an objectively good movie, yes.
It's on the list.
I mean, I guess I knew that.
It's the same as In Bruges, actually, because it's one of those movies that I'm like, do I really want to watch that? Is it really as good as I remember? And then every time I watch it, I say yes.
It is a perfect movie. The funny thing is, there are some superficial similarities between those 2 movies. One of them being that you have an actor who's normally known for being like a hunk in the form of Brad Pitt / Colin Farrell, instead playing kind of a wacky idiot in that movie. So that's probably what you like about it, Michael.
That's probably it.
That's probably the entire key.
I mean, Brad Pitt is a good actor.
Yeah, he is.
We've discussed.
Isn't it interesting that In Bruges feels like a movie that's older than 2008 to me? It feels like one of Colin Farrell's first movies, but it's not.
No, it's not.
No, he was. That's what's funny is we all kind of knew him as hunky, chiseled movie star Colin Farrell, and here he's playing this like whiny
phone
guy.
booth Colin Farrell, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
SWAT Colin Farrell.
SWAT Colin Farrell, the pinnacle of stardom.
Wait, was SWAT? No, I'm thinking of Training Day. That was Ethan Hawke.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Correct. SWAT is the one with Colin Farrell and Samuel L. Jackson.
It's not a good
now
movie.
Is SWAT on the list, Scott?
No, it's not.
It's not on the list. See, you can tell. Mm-hmm. You can tell.
He's kind of got a point.
I mean, it's easy to tell when the choices are like SWAT. But like, Michael, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Is The Matrix on the list?
No.
See, here we go.
Is Pirates of the Caribbean on the list?
It's not on the list. It's not on the list.
The Matrix should be on the list, Michael.
It's not on the list.
The Matrix not being on the list throws your whole list in the garbage as far as
Let me bring up a little point for you. Okay. You know this whole idea that sequels can't ruin movies? Guess where I'm going with this. They can ruin movies.
No, they can't. No,
and
they can't.
Matrix has been ruined.
Bullshit.
Well, what if the fourth Matrix movie redeems the Matrix? Can it go on the list then?
It's just not possible.
Wow.
Why is that not possible?
Because we're talking about objectively good movies, Scott.
Can we wrap this whole thing up? Michael, are you going to vote?
You've made yourself very clear in where you stand on votes now that we've done away with the Kryptonian collection, which was an egalitarian system.
This is more egalitarian.
Is it?
Yeah, our votes, to be honest with you, neither Matt nor my vote matters in this at all.
What matters here?
The people at home, the listeners, they're going to do the voting.
Can anyone vote in this competition?
Anyone in the world.
If they have a Patreon, they don't have to be a patron. They just have to have a Patreon.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to sign up for Patreon just to support this program.
I knew that.
Yeah.
So if In Bruges loses the vote, Michael, it is all your fault.
Oh, no, because I won't make a Patreon.
Exactly.
I'm not going to be a part of your program to trick people into signing up for a system and getting the man to know.
What?
Not me.
We'll just cut all this out, Scott. They don't need to hear about our plan.
Obviously not. All right. That is it for In Bruges. Please go to the link in the show notes right now and vote yes or no on if this wonderful movie should be entered into our list of the greatest films of all time.
It's going to get entered. I mean,
I hope so.
It's one of them. It's one of the six. Doof.
All right, guys, before we wrapped everything up, I just wanted to talk briefly about some new movies that have been out recently. Both of these actually are Netflix movies, but the first one I want to talk about is The Mitchells versus the Machines. Matt, you saw this movie too, right?
I did. I watched it with my kids, which is always a bit of a two-headed coin or some other metaphor, because like it's more fun to watch things with them because you get to sort of watch it through their eyes. But then also it's very easy to get distracted and sidetracked from watching a movie when you're watching with your kids. So on the whole, a very positive experience.
Yeah, this is another one of those. It's a Sony animated pictures movie. It's produced by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the guys who take everything good and make it amazing. Example is Lego Movie.
I do enjoy the Lego movie.
Yeah, I knew you would. And also Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
One of the six.
But is the Lego Batman movie one of the six?
I'm going to have to rewatch it. It's not one of the six, but it was pretty good.
It's probably not one of the six.
There might be seven.
It's not that good.
It's pretty good.
It's fine. The Mitchells vs. the Machines, however, is a very, very good movie. The whole kind of concept of this movie is a girl is going off to college, and her father, recognizing that their relationship is not in a good place and they won't have an opportunity to fix it before she leaves home, decides to cancel her plane ticket to go to college on the West Coast and instead do a family road trip all the way to her film school. And then during that, the Apple version in this movie, I forget what it's called. I think it's called PAL and not Apple. They invent a new AI that takes over the world. And so the Mitchells have to defeat the machines. But it's, of course, a movie about relationships and parents. And it's really quite touching and beautiful. I think it's also just like a really sharp script. Like it's just a really well done, written movie.
Yeah. It works really well on the level of drama and connecting everything through and making sure everything lands.
Yeah.
It's very resonant. I think everybody who has parents can relate to this.
Sure.
And also having children, even though mine aren't that old yet, I was also kind of, they don't have to be that old before you become aware of like things like, I messed that up. Things aren't going well between us. I need, what can I do to fix that? Like that's now very relatable to me. You can look forward to that, Scott.
Oh, hooray.
But then also it's one of those things. It's one of those scripts like the Lego Movie where like, it's just constantly landing the jokes like unceasingly.
Yeah.
And actually funny, not like tiresome. So yeah, it's just great.
I do think this is a style of animation and a style of movie that is built for a generation that is younger than mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like it's just relentless with its visuals. It's like I call this a movie for the YouTube generation of people that just watch this like high energy, like always stuff on the screen, always jokes. This is a movie that like it uses multiple different styles of animation, you know, to just do these outlandish, over the top but funny jokes.
Yeah.
It is trying to do a very specific thing, and I think it works. But I also know in my heart that it's not for me, and that's fine. Like it's fine. Like I loved this movie.
It's the same as Lego movies, as you said.
Yes,
and I guess it's
exactly.
by the same people. But when I watch those, it takes me about 20 minutes to be able to like put myself in it and not be like, oh my God, why is it jumping around so much?
Right. Yeah. Like the cutting, the editing, just the switching, and like it's not tonal switch like in Bruges we just talked about it, but it's just like energy switches. It's just like, and I think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse did this as well. Like that is a movie that's just throwing everything at the screen at 500 miles an hour. And that's what the kids love these days. And that's fine. It's great, but it makes me feel old.
Yeah. There's no scene in it where a man sits on a park bench in front of a playground and puts a gun to his head in silence.
Well, I think that would be a very different movie.
Well, I'm just saying, it's got issues.
This sounds a lot to me like a Disney Channel original movie. Am I onto something here?
No, it's much more high fidelity and better made and more expensive than that. It looks the animation in this movie is gorgeous. Not even talking about like the 2D cut-ins that they do, which I think are really clever. Like we saw some of that in Spider-Man, but this movie does it a lot. But just like the regular 3D animation looks really good. I think we've gotten like I love the Pixar look and what Pixar does, but I think a lot of people kind of just copied the Pixar look. And this is a movie in which you can tell people are trying to do their own thing. They're trying to do their own style. They're designing this thing to look different and unique and cool. And it works.
Just to help me out and the people in the audience who might not have seen this movie, would a young Shia LaBeouf feel at home here?
Are you trying to say this is like Even Stevens? Is that what you're doing here?
Well, it's just maybe it's from the Mitchells versus the Machine that gives me that vibe. But I've still just got strong Disney Channel original movie vibes going on from your description here. But now I'm thinking it's completely animated. That's what you're telling me.
It's completely animated.
It's totally animated.
If anything, it's funny. It feels sometimes more like Into the Spider-Verse than it does like Pixar, even though it's not.
Yes,
it's not quite that animation style, but like the willingness to kind of twist things and make them hyper realistic. I think the thing I don't know if I fully understand your Disney Channel original movie comment, Michael, but I think one thing that I really like about the movie is like the characters are not like the generic cardboard cutout version of the character that you normally get in this broad type of movie where it's like, well, there's got to be the father and the mother and then the
annoying younger brother, probably.
Exactly.
Yes,
there's literally the annoying younger brother, except in this movie, all those characters like have their own arcs and have their own stuff going on, which is all like interesting and funny. Like the mom's little arc is great. The little brother is actually a fun character instead of just being like rote. So a very good script overall.
I loved that her relationship with her younger brother is a good one,
right.
And like they didn't fall into the trope of like, oh, older sister and annoying younger brother. They genuinely like each other. Like one of my favorite jokes in the thing is the little brother is like obsessed with dinosaurs. That's like his big character trait. And they're driving by a dinosaur amusement park thing, and the older sister says, "Oh no, I think he actually told me that he doesn't like dinosaurs anymore." And it's just like it's not like it's just it feels like a very natural kind of sibling loving rib. That's not like them fighting. I just loved it. I thought there was something so pure about that moment that I just loved.
Yeah, it's very, very human. Yeah, Sure.
It's a pretty good movie. It's available on Netflix now. I think it's worth all of your time, especially if you're into animation. I think Sony Animation is doing really interesting stuff in the field, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
What were some of the other Sony Animation pictures?
Into the Spider-Verse. We already talked about that. What else? Let me look it up. Sony Pictures Animation. Let me see. Not everything. they do is great. They did Hotel Transylvania, which I've never even seen those movies, so I can't really comment on them.
I think my kids like those, actually. I don't think I've actually watched them, but
I think the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and the Mitchells vs. the Machines are they're both Sony Animations, but they're also part of Lord Miller Productions, which is their combined production team. And I think those are the ones I want to watch in the field of animation.
I see. Like the Legos.
Yes, like the Legos. All right. I think that's it. Let's just wrap it up there.
Okay.
But didn't you have a science fiction movie?
Yeah, but neither of you have seen. I guess I can talk about it real quick. There's another Netflix movie called Stowaway that I just watched, like literally finished it up 10 minutes before we sat down to record. It's a movie in which the concept is this team of 3 are going to Mars. They're 2 scientists and a commander of the vessel are going on a trip to Mars. There's apparently already a colony there, but there's a 4th person on the ship, and that fucks everything up because everything is calculated very carefully for 3 people, and then something goes wrong and the CO2 scrubber breaks, and so they definitely don't have enough. So it's basically, okay, one of you has to die now, and it's them kind of trying to solve the problem of there's not enough oxygen. What do we do? It's a very kind of classic space is scary as shit and there's no room for error type movie, but it is bringing to the forefront a sci-fi concept of like, what do you do? It's not exactly a trolley problem, but it's close to a trolley problem. Like, what do you do if the math says 4 people cannot live by the time we get to where we're going? What do we do?
And is this a movie that is ultimately triumphant, or is it just kind of a sad movie?
I'm not gonna tell you that.
Well, I have a related but distinct question. So like my kids, like they just absolutely love The Martian. Is this a thing that my kids could watch potentially?
Will the kids cry?
I think it's going to be too slow for your kids. I don't think it's quite as like there's the climactic scene of the movie is some just incredibly well done tension, but I don't think incredibly well done tension in a way that like your kids are going to love it. Like the Martian had like an energy to it. Like this is not that. Okay. I compared it earlier to like the first half of the movie Sunshine, where shit's going wrong and everyone's trying to work really, really hard together to fix it.
Yeah, I might put it on and see how they react to it. And
the first half of Sunshine was pretty good, but the second half of Sunshine wasn't very good.
It's when they turned it to a slasher. I mean, I enjoyed it, but a lot of people didn't.
Yeah.
Is this movie more like Gravity or Requiem for a Dream?
It's definitely not at all like Requiem for a Dream.
Okay. Oh, I might give it a shot.
It's starring Anna Kendrick, Daniel Day Kim, and Toni Collette, and an actor named Shamir Anderson. Those are our 4 characters, and those are the only ones you see. I think this is a movie that was filmed during quarantine time.
They're musical numbers?
No.
But it is a constrained setting with a very small number of characters, Michael.
That's why I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
But to me, Anna Kendrick belongs in the movie with musical numbers.
And you could say, in a way, isn't a spaceship just a space train?
I think so.
No, because it's not connected to other space train cars, Scott.
What if it is, though? Because this spaceship has a very long cord that connects it to another piece of the spaceship.
That's a train.
That sounds like a train.
You know?
And then they have to traverse the distance between those 2 cars.
You might have sold me on it. You might have sold me on it there. Well, I'll give it a little shot as long as it's not like Requiem for a Dream.
It's not at all like Requiem. I don't know why you picked that movie, but it's not at all like that one.
All right. Now, do you think Requiem for a Dream's on the list?
No.
No.
You know why? Because it's not a good movie.
I disagree with you, but okay. All right, folks, that is all we had for you guys this week. If you have any opinions on the Mitchells versus the Machines, on Stowaway, or of course on In Bruges, feel free to reach out to us via email at doofmedia@gmail.com or over on our Twitter account at doofmedia.
Yeah, and if you're not already subscribed to the Doofcast, then go ahead and do that. You can find us on all the major podcasting platforms, and it is just one click away.
Yeah. I think we were also asked to announce that our
Is
friends...
that really one click away?
It's at least 3 clicks away, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
But the final click is the one that matters.
Yeah, it's one click away.
So you're assuming the podcast app's already open.
Yeah. Of course. Why wouldn't it be? You're listening to this right now. Why wouldn't it already be open?
And they've already searched for Doof Media.
They have. So it's one click away now.
Yeah, okay. I'll allow that. Yeah. Continue.
Our friends Elliot and Ruben over at the Pale Reflections podcast have also been doing an actual play show called Pace. We talked about it last week. Well, it concluded this week, and they also announced, Matt, ridiculously, that they're doing another 24-hour live stream. Actually, this one's going to be a 25-hour live stream once the Wild Bows Pale completes.
You know, that last hour is going to feel a lot less funny to them once that hour rolls around.
I think you're right, but we're very excited for them. If you want to learn more about that, make sure you are paying attention to the Pale Reflections podcast over the next few months as they gear up for that live stream. It's going to be wild.
Yeah.
Those crazy kids.
I know.
Their last 24-hour live stream was incredible, actually. I still don't believe they did it. I still don't believe that they were able to be as entertaining as they were for 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, are we sure that they were live the whole time? Because I went to bed, so they could have just faked us all out.
Well, let me point out, one thing you might not have considered.
Okay, what's that?
Australia, in the future, it cheated.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, see, you're doing the thing where you don't know how time zones work.
Oh, I know how they work. And it's 13 hours away, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah,
something like that.
He's right.
So really, they're only doing a 12-hour live stream.
Interesting.
It's elementary math.
Anyway.
All right, folks, you can find Pale Reflections and all of our shows over at our website, doofmedia.com. And if you like that show, this show, any of our shows, consider becoming a patron of Doof Media. Head on over to patreon.com/doofmedia. And there you can become a member of the council that brings us films like In Bruges and all the other films we've talked about on this monthly episode.
Yeah. Also, we'd really appreciate it if you could give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, because that teaches the algorithm to have correct opinions.
It's true.
Like, for example, that the Doofcast is good.
Objectively good.
Exactly. Objectively one of the 6 good podcasts.
Yeah. There you go. All right, folks, that is it for us this week. Next week, we resume our Deconstructing Verbinski series with his third film, The Ring. We'll see you then.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.